I can hear something calling. It's calling me every day. If taking a chance is a crime, then I've got hell to pay. I've been walking the streets in my mind, trying to find a new day. Keep on searching until I will find, until I find a new way. I'm gonna say something, I hope you don't mind. It's time to rearrange. I walk round in circles, I'm going nowhere. It's time to make a change.
Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I am your host, Charles Wallace, and welcome to the Bare Essentials podcast. As we continue on our journey to build a stronger community, I'm very excited to share with you all the Kindness Alliance, which is a unique free of charge advertising initiative looking to support businesses that share in our core values. Each episode will look to spotlight a different member, celebrating their contributions and dedication to kindness. Would you like to get involved? Just visit the Kindness Alliance section on our website, www.thebareessentialspodcast.com, or just send me a message. And now, a huge thank you to this week's Kindness Alliance member.
Welcome to Family Farms, where our culinary journey is woven with passion, dedication, and a commitment to crafting the finest bacon-wrapped chicken, a timeless delicacy that has tantalized the taste buds since 1974. At Family Farms, we're more than just a traditional name. We've evolved into purveyors of gourmet delights. Join us on this flavorful adventure, where every bite tells a story of tradition, quality, and the enduring spirit of Family Farms.
Jake, how you doing today, my friend? Thanks for joining me.
Mate, I'm good. Thanks for having me on. Charles, good to see you, and good to finally connect.
Yeah, have a lot of different variety of people on the show, and I've been connected with you now recently on LinkedIn, and I think some of the things you're doing out there will be definitely valuable and good insights for people. So with that being said, could you give a brief introduction to yourself?
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I'm originally from England, from Manchester, and now I'm based in Peru in the Sacred Valley in the mountains. So there's been a lot of change, especially over the last couple of years in terms of where I'm based. Traveled a lot in the past, lived in lots of different places, and come from a background running different businesses and being a founder and CEO and entrepreneur. And going through like a lot of stress, chronic stress and severe burnout, I decided to take a different path and exit my last business and set up a new business, which is really focused on helping people with some of the challenges that I was going through. And the main things I would say that I see a lot of the time.
I'm sorry. Excuse me.
That's all right. No worries.
And there we go. Blooper reel.
Yeah, some of the things that I see with clients, it could be things professionally, it could be things personally. Some examples might be they're dealing with a lot of stress, or they're going through some mental health challenges, or their mind's causing them a lot of suffering or pain, or they're feeling emotionally not great. There's a lot of negative energy and emotions that are coming up for them, and they're not sure how to deal with it. And the work that I do is to help them to understand what's going on and to develop more self-awareness of what the mind's doing, what's happening physically, what's happening spiritually, what's happening in the body and emotionally. And I help them to manage and reduce the stress and to develop more self-awareness, and to be able to work through the challenges that they're going through and to be able to reframe things and to switch the mindset. So that's a bit of an introduction of the things that I do now.
Yeah, and I think it's really important. That's why I want to have you on, because I think we see a lot, you're on LinkedIn and on social media. There's a lot out there, right? A lot of it, I think people look at for coaching. It's a lot about weight loss, getting fit. And I don't think enough people, I know I was guilty of this, you don't really consider your mind and your mental health as important. And quite frankly, it could be even more important. So again, that's why I thought having you on will be good. So let me ask you this. What what types of personal experiences inspired you to get into this type of work and to start your business of awareness coaching, I believe it's called, correct?
Awareness coaching, yeah, awareness coaching. And yeah, the reason I called it that was that's been the word that's been the most present for me for the last 4 or 5 years. It's the word I've used the most probably and read about the most, and just felt like the right kind of name for the business. And I get some people that are like, what is that? What is an awareness coach? Like, what's awareness coaching? And to keep it pretty straightforward, it is to help clients to develop more awareness of what is going on for them internally, what's going on with their thoughts, what's going on with their emotions, what sensations are coming up, how they're feeling, and how they can start to maybe not identify with those things as much and to practice letting go of those things. Which for me, the reason I got into this work was that like I mentioned before, that I came from an entrepreneurial background. Like, when I finished university, I traveled a lot, and then I went into working in recruitment in a sales role, and did very well working in recruitment. Didn't always enjoy that kind of work, but there were some aspects of it that I did enjoy. And I worked for a company, did well for them, then set up my own recruitment company. And when I set my own recruitment company up, we had a really good year financially, but emotionally I was struggling and I didn't know how to deal with it. And there was a lot of thoughts coming up, there was a lot of emotions coming up, and I was struggling to cope with some of the things that I was dealing with. And at that time, not many people were talking about therapy or coaching or meditation or any of these things. I'd not grown up with it, and so I wasn't educated on it. And it was kind of like, just ignore it, go out and get drunk or take some drugs, or try and ignore what is actually going on for me in my own internal experience. And it got to the point where I just decided that I knew that recruitment wasn't the thing that I wanted to be doing long term. So I decided to sell my shares in that business, and kind of ignored some of the things that were coming up. At that point, I kind of pushed them away and decided to just go traveling. And after that, I went up. This was based in Australia, so I went to Thailand and Bali after it. And at that point in my life, I was very into like fitness and running and going to the gym, but I couldn't actually outrun or out-train some of these challenges and pressure and the stress. Like, that's the first time I was like, I couldn't out-train it. It was too much coming up for me. So I went to Thailand, stopped drinking alcohol, did like 60 days of no alcohol in training, and obviously letting go of a lot of the pressure and stress of working in the recruitment business. And I felt a lot better. Like, I felt miles better, but I knew deep down that there's things that I'd not dealt with and didn't know how to deal with. And then kept traveling. I was like, well, what am I going to do next? Financially, I was in a decent position, but I was like, well, what do I want to do? And I decided to go down the route of, I was going to lots of gyms, and no one knew about these gyms when I'd speak to them about them. So I was like, I'll maybe go and set up a marketing agency in the fitness industry to help the gyms get more awareness and to get more clients coming in. But I didn't have any experience in either. So I moved back to England, which was I'd been away from England for like 7 years, I think, at that point. So going back to England was quite a big change from being in Australia and Asia and the US as well. And I moved to London, didn't know anyone, and then set this business up in the fitness industry, and kind of got like a rude awakening of like, fucking hell, like, how am I gonna make this work? So I just decided to work. And I'd gone through a relationship breakup where I was cheated on in the relationship a number of times that I found out towards the end of the relationship. And I didn't know how to deal with those things. I literally just ignored it, didn't know how to deal with it, and thought, right, I'll put all my energy into this new business and I'll just focus on that and I'll figure it out. This new business will solve those problems. So worked pretty much every day and weekends, because I was paying quite a lot for rent and didn't have any income coming in. I was living out of my savings. And the first year was challenging. It was difficult. We started to get some success at the end of the first year. And then at the end of the first year of the business, I could feel like I was burning out again. There was like a theme throughout my career before that, where there was like, I felt like I was always on the edge of burnout. And it was like, oh shit, I've not been out yet, but it's going to happen soon. So it was always like a fear of it coming. So I was like, I'll go to Thailand again. After a year in London, I went to Thailand and was like, I know I can, be healthy here, and this is going to help me with the burnout. And it did help. Like, it helped me grow the business and it helped me to get new clients and hire new people. But there was still something internally like that felt empty, and I felt like I was missing out on maybe something that was more authentic and true for me. But again, I ignored it and carried on because the money was getting better and it was exciting and the business was growing and I had these advisors that were advising me. And yeah, I was going down the route of following what advisors were telling me to do, not listening to what I actually wanted to do. And then it got to a point where the business was doing really well and we were growing. And then I had the opportunity to basically, the advisors were like, if you want to grow the business, you need to probably go out to England and build out a sales team and get an office and have like a remote team and an office. So I went back to England after being in Asia, barefoot, living near the beach and going back to England in the winter. And the business was at this point making the most money that it had ever made and more money than I'd ever made. But I was the most miserable that I'd ever been. And I moved into a new house, bought a new place in Manchester. And my parents moved in with me because they were kind of in transition from moving out of one house, moving into another house. And basically, that was a real big moment in my life where I realized that I was really struggling and I didn't know how to cope with the things that I was going through again. The things that I'd ignored in that last business and going away again, they came back and they came back a lot stronger because I'd obviously been working a lot over the years before this. So I just felt really tired and exhausted and anxious and stressed. And I'd kind of lost the reason why I was actually doing the business. And this was about 6 months before COVID. And it was a lot of the thoughts of like, why do I feel like this? I should be happy. Things are going well. Like, I should be more grateful. I should appreciate what I've got. Like a lot of judgment towards myself at that point. And then COVID came and we went through a really difficult period where a lot of the clients wanted to pause or they wanted to leave. And it was kind of a decision of like, do you want to fight through this? Or, do you think you can actually go through this process? And personally, the way I was feeling, I had to really think about myself because I was having like suicidal thoughts. There was no intention, there was no planning, but there was different thoughts that were coming up for those 6 months before COVID. So I decided to make a decision for my own health, like to basically start to wind down the business, which brought up a lot of different emotions and brought up a lot of different problems because I had to let people go from the business. I had some problems with clients, I had some problems with former like employees. And that was about an 18-month process after COVID of winding it all down. And at that point, I was like, I really do need to get some help from someone because I can't actually solve this one on my own. Like, I can go to the gym, I can do yoga, but they're probably not going to help me fix some of these problems that I'm going through. So I decided to work with a psychologist / coach who's like a hybrid mix that had been recommended, and started to understand like what my mind was doing and what emotions were coming up, and started to, off the back of working with him, he didn't actually specialize with meditation, but I felt called to start doing meditation in my own time. So I started practicing meditation, building out like a consistent daily practice, and started to see some benefits from that. I was getting a lot from the coach in terms of like understanding more than anything and being able to practice like letting go of what was coming up for me mentally. Because there was a lot of regret and guilt and shame and a lot of judgment at myself based off some of the decisions that I'd made. And I couldn't change some of those things that I'd made, So it was like, you have to accept, you have to acknowledge, you have to be kind, you have to be compassionate with yourself. I had to learn more around like self-compassion and self-love. And I'd say the main thing was practicing to let go, which I'd always been holding on too much. And then from there, it was kind of, I wasn't working as much. I had some more time available. So then I started going on silent meditation retreats, and that gave me a lot of insights into how my mind was working and what it was doing. And they also helped me to like start to calm my nervous system more and to let go and release some of those negative emotions that were coming up, and to also start to release some of the like lack of forgiveness that I had towards myself and towards others as well. It also helped me with those processes. They were some of the main ones. And then I also started doing mushrooms in my house, but in like a respectful way. In the past before that, I'd been in Thailand on the beach, drinking buckets, maybe taking some mushrooms. That was probably the wrong way of doing it. And then I decided at this point, I was like, no, I want to try and do it in like the right setting in a respectful way. And they gave me some real good insights, helped me connect more with my body, and also gave me this calling to go to like South America to do ayahuasca. So I decided at this point, I was like, I want to set up a business that's going to help people similar to the things that I've been through and the things that I've been learning. I started doing lots of courses as well on like how to be a meditation teacher, understanding mindfulness more, different coaching courses, courses on like compassion and how to inquire with compassion for others and for myself. So there was a lot of learning in this process, and I kind of had the time to be able to do that, to invest in myself. Then I decided to sell all my stuff in England, like just get rid of everything, sell my house, sell all my other stuff. And I had a challenge where I wanted to initially rent my house out. So I was meant to go to Colombia the year before I actually left. And I was planning it. I had my house ready to be rented and I was ready to go. I was nearly close to booking the flights. And then I got a message from my estate agent saying like, yeah, you can't rent your house, and in your lease, you're not allowed to rent your place. Like it was an apartment, but it was quite a big apartment. So it felt like a house, but it was part of a bigger, like 10 residents in this building. And one of the residents had complained that I was going to rent it because in the lease, you're not allowed. So that was a big hit because I'd invested some money into the property as well. So then I was kind of felt a bit stuck. I was like, I have to sell it. But the market at that point was good, but it was kind of on the brink of changing. So there was obviously a lot that came up in that process of like not making the right decisions and like you're stupid, blah, blah, blah. And meditation was really helpful for allowing me to feel what was coming up for me in that process. So then I sold everything, booked a flight to Costa Rica and booked a ayahuasca retreat, a place called Soltara, which is a center in Costa Rica. I'd done a lot of research on places to go. Went to Costa Rica, spent a few weeks there, then went to the retreat. And had a life-changing experience. Like, yeah, it was incredible. It allowed me to let go of a lot of stuff and see a lot of things that were going to happen next. And then I met my partner through that experience. And then I traveled around Central America on my own. And then I moved to Peru and started working in running ayahuasca retreats with my partner, who's got a lot more experience than me with it, with the medicine and running retreats and working at different retreat centers. So I started working with her, training and being like supported and led from her, and went on doing like plant dieters in the Amazon, where it's not just ayahuasca, you're working with different plants from the Amazon that all have like different medicinal benefits. And there's a lot of teaching in that process as well, and beautiful process, but can be difficult. And then we found out we're having a baby. So that was a big one after going into that experience. And then, yeah, I've been coaching and working with clients. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea why I went down this route of helping clients, because I've been through a lot of it myself and feel like I've figured out some of the things along the way.
Yeah. And I think that's, I think for all of us, looking to people who we share experiences with or who have been through, I'll say, been through the shit like we've been through. Yeah. I think they make our best teachers because we can relate to, maybe not fully, but in general, even, you being where you are over, we're in England, Peru, wherever, I think I could find 10 guys here in America that would have a similar story of being through, trying circumstances and feeling the way you feel. What have you, through your own experience and kind of now through your coaching, I feel like I do feel like we've gotten better with the stigma around mental health. I think we are, at least as a society, being more open and willing to talk about it, right? Mm-hmm. But I still feel like a lot of what you described, I think a lot of us have those feelings. We know it. And there's a lot of people, they still refuse to react to it or try to address it. What do you think the big cause for that is, Jake?
The one cause will be the mind, like the egoic mind, kind of blocking it or stopping people from maybe taking action, or they're listening too much to what the mind's coming up with. Another cause will be not knowing who they should be working with, like not knowing what kind of person they actually need help with. So like the education of like who they should be maybe reaching out to, or where they can look for those kind of that kind of support. And what else would there be? I think it's also a feeling of like people sometimes think that they can just handle it. They should be able to handle it on their own based off their childhood experiences. You know, we're not taught. Well, I wasn't taught from my parents to self-regulate or to connect with my emotion or um, to allow myself to feel the sadness or whatever it is that was coming up. And that's not their fault, you know, that's just the way it was in those days, I think, for a lot of people. I don't think it was just my experience. So I think when we get to an older age, we're like, well, our parents maybe didn't go through this or they didn't go and seek help. So I should be able to handle this. Like, why am I going to seek help? Am I weak or, you know, is there something wrong with me or is there a problem or have I got a mental health problem? And that can then cause people to maybe freeze or procrastinate and not take that next step.
It's interesting you said that because obviously, I mean, I think we can tell I'm a bit older than you are at this point. From my generation.
Only a little bit.
What you're describing though, it is true, right? I mean, I literally like, you know, swap some spit on it, throw a Band-Aid on it, you're fine, right? That was the way we were all brought up. And
get on with it.
I think, move on, right? So where do you see, at least for me, I see there's this kind of fine line now, right? Where being willing to discuss it, being willing to address it, but also guarding against maybe going too far the other way, right? Because I think that becomes an issue too, right? We get where people become, I'll say, too connected, and it actually has a negative impact because it really brings them down into even a more depressed mode, and they're very just too emotional to be able to have the strength and resilience they need to deal with it. Like, where do you kind of meet in the middle and guard against that from happening?
I think it obviously depends on individual cases, like, you know, especially with the work I do, it depends on the client and where they're at and what they are willing to work on, you know, or how far they want to go with the work. Or I think it's important to tailor the requirements and the work depending on where that person's at with their own awareness. So I think you're right, and it depends. If somebody's been through a lot of trauma, then it's really important to be trauma sensitive in the work that you do. And, you know, maybe meditation isn't the right practice for everybody, isn't, you know, not everyone will work on that. Like some people, they've been through a lot of trauma, meditation actually makes things worse. So it's about really understanding the client from like the professional point of view, and obviously only going as far as the client's willing to go with the work. And yeah, I feel like from my own personal like direct experience, you have to go through some real challenges along the way. And, you know, if you want to connect with some of the deepest, most vulnerable parts of yourself, or connect with some of these emotions that are really difficult to sit with, that they're unpleasant, you know, they're not enjoyable to sit with, then it can be challenging. And off the back of that, it can be confusing and you can go through a difficult period. But by cultivating things like faith, having certain practices that you work on a daily basis that help you to ground back in the present moment, and having some support from, say, somebody that's the right fit for you, that you resonate with, that you enjoy working with, maybe outside of your normal family dynamic or your friendships, that is someone that is like not biased, somebody that can support you, or it feels like a safe space where you feel like you can open up and you feel like you can trust them. And that was the big thing for me in the first, because I worked with somebody before I worked with that psychologist. And it was a great experience, but it didn't feel like the right person for me. It was great for a few months, and I was like, I feel like I need to find someone else who could help me more. And by then changing and working with this next person, I felt very safe. There was no judgment. And I felt like I could really allow myself to open up in that space, because unless somebody's trained and understanding and understands how to listen and can like do active listening in a really good way, then it can be challenging. Yeah, you can feel judged, you know, and then you can be like, I don't know whether this is the right thing for me, or maybe this is not going to be the right path. So I think it all comes down to the experience of the people that you work with as well.
And you brought up a couple things there I wanted to ask you about, actually, and it goes back to something you said earlier, but I'll make it a two-parter here. But through what you've been through in your journey and now coaching and other people, I guess what I'd like to ask you is, I mean, I feel like this is hard for a lot of us. Have you kind of figured out how to trust yourself? And you mentioned earlier about how important it is to be able to forgive ourselves. Is there anything you haven't been able to forgive yourself for yet?
Yeah, the good question. So in terms of like the trust aspect and trusting myself, I feel like that is something that's practiced and cultivated with time using different techniques. And the mind will get in the way and will say things and will come out with things that are going to try and stop you along the way. So there's lots of tests along the path, but it's how you can obviously notice that the mind isn't who you really are. Like it's a voice, or a number of different voices that are going on, but they are not who you are. And being able to be like the awareness of them and be able to notice them, you're still going to get caught by the mind, like it's going to happen. But then being able to notice it whenever you have been caught for a long period, and then be able to practice the process of just letting go of the mind, and then being able to connect back and tap into your own intuition, is a really powerful skill and technique. And of course, there's going to be times of doubt and judgment and fear and anxiety and stress. But if you have the right tools and the right techniques that resonate with that person as an individual, then you can ground yourself and you can connect with something much deeper within yourself that helps you to then trust and have faith. I think faith's a big one because, if we look at security, for example, that's linked to having safety, and that's usually linked to beliefs, which is thoughts. We want to figure everything out ourselves. We want everything to work in a certain way. That isn't reality. That's our mind. Like the reality is different than that. So it's how we can connect with what's actually happening in reality, not what's happening within our mind. And then coming back to the whole thing around faith of like, I actually don't know. I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to have faith that things are going to unfold the right way if I keep following what feels true for me. So yeah, hope that resonates.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And as the second part of that, have you made the progress? Do you feel, and not being specific, but have you felt you've made good progress as far as the forgiveness aspect and being able to forgive yourself? Or is it, and because I
Definitely.
think, yeah, so you're
Definitely, yeah. So to go into that in a bit more detail, like with forgiveness, I've used different techniques with forgiveness in terms of like towards others, towards myself, where I might say something like, if it's somebody that's done something to me that I didn't agree with or it didn't feel right, I'll try and practice like metta or loving kindness and wish them well. And not just like from my rational mind, I'll try and pay attention more to like the heart area and try and actually send out like good wishes to that person. May you be well, may you get what you want from life. And I forgive you, and it's okay, it's just what happened at that time. And it doesn't always work, but it's a practice that we can keep doing on a daily basis. And over time, we can start to let go and release some of that tension. I'm not saying it's going to go in a week of doing it. It might take years, but it's a process that we can keep following. And then other things I've done is obviously like different like journaling, writing techniques when it comes to forgiveness that can be really helpful. And also meditation can be good because meditation puts you in a place where I've not found a better practice for a daily practice. I've not found a better practice for releasing suffering or being able to forgive than meditation, and usually metta meditation, which is love and kindness, where you can send love and kindness to yourself, send it to everybody in the world. You can send it to individuals that you've had problems with. You can send it to people that you love. It can be difficult sometimes in like complicated relationships with your partner, for example, but with time, you can still cultivate that as well. But that can be really helpful because the world right now has a lot of problems, shitloads of problems, but it's always had loads of problems. It's not like it's just started having problems. Maybe social media's, showing videos of these things in a more graphic way. But, if we go back in history, there's always been these kind of challenges that we faced. And just focusing on the problem and the things that are going wrong actually is going to affect us and make us feel probably worse as a result of it. Whereas what I try and do is I try and send out good wishes and prayers and good things to people that are doing good, people that, you know, perceive to be doing bad. And that can be a nice exercise because you're sending that out to people that maybe you don't feel agree with in terms of the actions, but you actually reciprocate it back. So if you send that out, it comes back to you as well. And that could be a nice practice, especially with the wars that are going on, with the AI stuff that's going on, with the climate change stuff that's going on, and how we can feel really pissed off with some of the things that are happening, you know. And the final one is ayahuasca. That's the main one. That's the one that's really helped me to forgive myself, to forgive others. And it's allowed me to, what it did, there's one specific thing that it's really allowed me to do, where you basically start to imagine the people that you'd want to say sorry to. And it's allowed me to like really imagine those people in the ceremonies and like send apologies to them and send as much love as I can to them, and the same back to myself. But it also connects. Meditation does this as well, but ayahuasca really goes to the root of the energy within the body and the emotion, and it makes you feel it first, and then it helps you to release it through different ways, purging in different ways.
Yeah, I think I appreciate your answer on that, because I do think, you know, for me, you know, as I've aged, I feel like I've gotten smarter and understand that forgiveness, you know, somewhat even in a selfish way, right? Me being able to forgive people or people that have wronged me in the past allows me to be positive and move forward in the future. Same with for people that I feel like, you know, in my younger years, if I didn't do right by them, right? I feel the same way, and trying to really just make it not, you know, I say a lot of times to my own family, like we can't dwell. Dwelling really just really sacks your energy and it becomes a problem. I did want to ask you, when I was doing some research before we got together, and I noticed that you mentioned I think it was on your webpage, on your website, about ancient wisdom as part of some of your techniques. I wanted to ask about that because for me lately, I've been really doing a lot more reading on Stoicism and things like that. So I wanted to kind of ask your feelings on that and what that means and the way you interpret that as far as the ancient wisdom and how that intertwines with what you do now.
Yeah, for sure. When I started down this path, I started reading about a lot of different philosophies, Stoicism and Buddhism being the main two. But there was other things like Sufism and Hinduism and lots of other areas that I started to look at. Quickly realized that I was trying to take in too much information from different authors, different philosophies, and it was quite confusing and conflicting at times. And then I was like, which one resonates the most with me? And Buddhist psychology, I feel, is really solid grounding for a balanced mind, and, you know, creating more equanimity, which is composure, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant, and staying balanced. And out of everything, Stoicism I still enjoy reading, but Buddhism is the one that I focus on in terms of ancient wisdom, and I do a lot of reading and a lot of work with it with clients as well, in terms of a lot of the foundations and the structures of the work that I do is kind of rooted in Buddhist psychology. And then also, you know, because of ayahuasca and plant medicine, you know, I'm definitely working more and understanding more around like the shamanic traditions, but mainly focused around ayahuasca. And the two, like Buddhism and the work I do with like the shamanic world, they definitely intertwine, and there's a lot of connections between the two, even though meditation is a lot more gentle and ayahuasca is a lot faster and there's a lot more going on. But there's definitely a big connection between the two. Like, for example, in meditation, when we sit there, there's challenges. The mind's trying to distract us constantly. There's thoughts coming up. We're trying to focus on the breath. We're trying to focus on the body. We're being distracted. We get lost in it. Next minute, we're like, where have we gone? We're thinking about something next year that we've got to do, or we're thinking about something that's just happened. Then we have to come back to whatever it was, the thing that we're focusing on. So it's a battle. It's a more gentle battle, but it's a constant. Someone's trying to distract, someone's trying to take you away, and you have to bring yourself back to some kind of center or grounding. And the same with ayahuasca, it's constantly, there's things going on, you know, different energies within the room, different energies internally that are trying to distract us. And it is a battle again. It's just a different battle, but they're very similar.
Yeah, you know what, too? I wanted to, and I should have done this earlier, but it's interesting that I'd never heard of that, and I'm going to pronounce it wrong, ayahuasca, but
Ayahuasca.
yeah, I never heard of it. And now in the past month, you're the second guest I've had on who has spoken about it, which is really
Interesting.
interesting to me. And for anybody listening, I had Mike Corey, host of Fearless and Bar. He actually talked about it. But could you just, for people that are hearing this, and you mentioned it a few times now, what exactly is it?
What is ayahuasca?
Yes.
Good question. So ayahuasca is from the Amazon jungle. It natively grows in the Amazon, and it's like a tea. So it's a tea that you drink in ceremony. And ayahuasca has two components to it, as ayahuasca and chacruna. And one gives the dizziness, one gives visions during the experience. And it's been used for a long time with indigenous communities and different tribes within the Amazon. And it's very respected by all the Amazonian people as like the master plant of the Amazon. And I would kind of say ayahuasca is a connection to Mother Nature or Mother Earth or like Gaia, or there's a connection to nature. And there's a connection to all different like animals and plants and beings and different elements like fire and water and the sky and clouds, and it connects you to nature in a beautiful way. But the beautiful thing about ayahuasca, what it does, in the right setting, working with the right people, and I've been very lucky. I feel like I've been very lucky with the people that I've worked with, because I know of other people that maybe try ayahuasca for the first time in the wrong setting, maybe with the wrong kind of people, and they don't have a very good experience, or it's a very scary experience and it's difficult. And I feel like I did a lot of research before it, and I had to really trust the people that I was going to go and work with. And what's really important with ayahuasca is that you work with really skilled indigenous healers or maestros, depending if it's a male or a female. And shaman, the word shaman, they don't like to use, because shaman actually is a negative term, which means like sorcery or evil. So they don't like the word shaman. It's more like healer or maestro or maestra. And these people have obviously gone through a rigorous like process of training for years, where they're dieting different plants as well as ayahuasca. And they are now in a position where they're able to actually support you and heal you in a ceremonial setting. And the healing comes through mysterious songs called icaros. And they receive the icaros mysteriously after dieting for a long period of time. So it might take 7 years of dieting, where there's a lot of silence, where they're dieting different plants from the Amazon, where they have to be really rigorous with the foods that they eat. They have like abstain from sexual activity for long periods of time. They spend time in solitude in tambo huts and connect with the plant spirits that they're dieting with. And when they're in ceremony, if they've got a lot of energy from the plants that they're dieting with, then what they're able to do is they're able to sing these icaros that come to them through the ceremony after like 45 minutes to an hour of sitting in ceremony. And they call on the different plant spirits that they're connected with. And they're the icaros that kind of channel through the maestro or the maestra to the patient. And they're able to identify what's going on with the patient in an energetic way. Maybe what's not in harmony, maybe psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. And they're able to then help them release some of that suffering and pain to bring them into more alignment and balance and harmony. But it's a process, and it doesn't happen after 2 ceremonies or 3 ceremonies. But another thing to add is it's also the tradition that I work with is Shipibo. And that tradition, you in terms of the ceremonial space, you sit in a maloka, which is like a circle, and basically there's usually 3 to 4 ceremonies within a week, and each ceremony has like a structure to it in terms of what their plan is. Like the first ceremony is usually around cleaning and opening the space and helping you to start to open your physical body as well to the medicine. And the final ceremony, for example, is around like protection and closing everything. And a good way to explain it to like a Western mind would be that it's like you're going into hospital or you're going into surgery, but not in the traditional sense. It's more on the energetic sense. And the first step is about opening you up. And at the end of the process, it's about stitching you back up to make sure that you're okay to go back into the normal way of living. So yeah, I hope that gives you a bit of an idea of it.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. I think that'll be really well received by everyone listening. It's really interesting to me. Like I said, it's never heard of it my whole life, and now I've heard of it twice, which is really, really cool. So kind of want to end with this. You mentioned about have you had your baby yet?
Yeah, he's 1 year, 1 month.
Congrats. So
Thanks, man.
so my question now is, being a parent, dealing
Yeah.
with the stresses of being a parent, how do you balance keeping that mindfulness, not just for you, but for your child, for your whole family? How do you balance all that?
Yeah, definitely. It can be challenging, and my son's called Ikal, and at times he struggled with sleep. Like he wakes up probably on average between 5 times to 20 times it's been in the last year. So there's definitely been challenges with sleep. And, my partner has done an amazing job of, she's still breastfeeding, and, she's definitely tired, but she's very resilient and she's working her way through it. But some of the big things that we've done is, for me anyway, personally, is I've been working with my own therapists and coaches to make sure that I still am growing and learning, and that's been really important. And the process of being single or being in a relationship, but then going to be a dad, there's usually a lot of grief that can come up and feelings of loss, and you've lost some of that autonomy or freedom. So I had to work through a lot of those things early on in the process, which was actually really beautiful. And then other things have come up during this first year of like, it's really helped me to connect with my own inner child, and he looks very much like I did, which is helpful. So it feels like I'm looking at a young version of myself where I'm giving him a lot of love, and it's about also giving it to me and that inner child that's still within me as well. So that's been really healing, actually. Meditation's been massive, because meditation, you can get into a much deeper rest than sleep. So meditation has really helped me to like just connect with the sensations of like fatigue and tiredness, and to allow them to be there and to go in their own time. Yoga, definitely, but like pretty light yoga and stretching, because when you're tired, you don't want to be training too much. Go to bed as early as possible. So whenever he goes to bed, pretty much go to bed. Like I don't watch TV. Maybe at the weekends I'll watch a movie or something, but whenever he's asleep, I'm like, yeah, we've got to go. Let's get to sleep now. And we wake up early with him. And I've also put into my calendar, which has been helpful. Like 6 a.m. in the morning, he usually wakes up, and then till 9, it's like time with him and family. It's like that's what I'm doing. So in that morning period, it's like I'm going to spend time with my family. And I think the average the average married couple around the world, or maybe in the US or in the UK, spends like 2 hours a day together. So it's like, if I can spend that period in the morning, I'm like, at least I feel like I've spent a good period of my day at the start of the day when I'm the freshest with them. And then I also put in a period at night from like 6:37, like 6 to 6:37, depending on if I've got calls or something. From that period, again, I'm just spending time with them. And that's been good to like just have boundaries of like, because in the past I was guilty of, oh, I'll just keep working. If I can work, I'll just carry on with that. So just having it in my calendar as like meetings, for example, like my own personal meetings that I'm doing with the things that I value the most. That's been great. Ayahuasca has been really helpful, because it also helps you to let go of a lot of tiredness or fatigue, and it gives you a lot of energy. So, I've just come out of doing a diet in the jungle where I worked with a lot of different plants, and they give you a lot of energy through that process. So I don't feel like I'm sleep deprived. I don't feel like I'm on the edge of any kind of burnout. And I don't drink alcohol. I stopped drinking alcohol 4 or 5 years ago. And that's been big. It's been really big, because I think if I drank, then I would be probably a lot less mindful and impatient and struggling at times. If I went out on a Friday or something and was hungover with him on a Saturday, I think I'd be struggling based off my own experience in the past. And yeah, just trying to eat well, try and live a slow life, try and balance things, try and go to the gym whenever I can. And the work I do also gives me a lot of fulfillment and meaning and energy as well. I also feel like, the clients I work with, I'm sure get a lot from it in their own ways, but I also get a lot from it. I get a lot from that experience. So they're the main things, mate.
Yeah, man. Well, it sounds like you're doing a lot of really, really good stuff. And I continued success, man. And I hope the family, you continue to grow. Everyone stays well and healthy. And I hope that your son and learns from your example, because I think you're setting a fantastic example for him. So kudos to you for that. So Jake, where can people interested in finding out more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram is like Jake _awareness. LinkedIn, don't know if that's even got any kind of tag or whatever, so I don't know with LinkedIn, but the website is www.awarenesscoaching.co.uk. So I'd say they're the main places, mate.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to keep some easy, I'll make it the easy buttons in the notes so people can connect with you. Like I said, so many interesting people out in this world, and I'm feeling grateful and blessed that I was able to connect with another one today. So I'm truly grateful for your time and sharing your life and your experiences with myself and with the audience. So thank you for that, Jake.
Yeah, thanks, Charles. I appreciate it, mate.
Well, listen, everybody, check out Jake. Definitely worth your time. Highly recommend it. And thanks everybody for tuning in, listening, and watching. I really appreciate the support. Take care, everyone. Bye.
This has been the Bare Essentials. Thanks for listening. And remember, never hibernate on your goals.